All right, welcome back to the Powers on Sports podcast. I'm your host, Jason Powers, down here in Tampa, Florida. We have a big week of football in the NFL and college football. And our first guest this week is Roy Cummings. Roy is a longtime reporter that covers the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, the NFL, all things Tampa Bay sports. Roy presently is providing content for pewterpirates.com. And welcome back to the podcast, Roy.
Thanks for having me, Jason. I appreciate it.
Cool, great. All right. Before we get to the epic showdown in Foxboro this week, let's do a quick little review. Week 3 of the National Football League is in the books. The Buccaneers go to LA. They lose kind of the premium matchup of the week. They go down 34-24. Probably wasn't that close. A very impressive performance by Sean McVay, Stafford and company. Just your general thoughts of the Bucs-Rams game.
Yeah, obviously disappointed in the play of the defense. You know, I tweeted out very late in the game that here we are near the end of this game, and I've yet to see a defensive player for the Buccaneers make a play of any kind. And that was before Will Golston got his sack. But so I guess I stand corrected after that. But no, really, I mean, just very disappointed in the play of the defense. I mean, look, the offense is the offense. It's going to hum no matter what. Even if it's not humming, it's still going to score some points. It's going to be tough to stop, but the defense has got to play better. You know, let's face it. I think the Bucs have spent 3 weeks playing adequate football, not good football necessarily. They've been a little sloppy, a lot of penalties. Defense has obviously given up a lot of yards. They got away with it against Atlanta, got away with it against Dallas. Not going to get away with it against teams like LA. I don't think this defines them in any way, but it just shows that there's some work to be done here before they really hit their stride. Now, the offense, I think, has hit stride. I mean, you saw one thing I really liked is that as soon as Rob Gronkowski goes out briefly, thankfully, with an injury, looks like it might have been ribs, back, whatever. But in the interim, you just throw the ball right to Cameron Brate, you throw the ball right to O.J. Howard. They could lose a player there, as we've long thought, and be fine. They can lose a receiver like Antonio Brown, going to be fine. Running backs aren't working that well. They can still score points. They've got to be able to stop somebody else from scoring.
No, absolutely. I think, again, I don't know if the result of the game would change yesterday, but when Jamel Dean dropped the interception early in the first quarter, right in his hands, it just it didn't give you a good sign of things to come. And obviously the Bucs got depleted in the defensive backfield. Jamel Dean went out injured. They were already without Murphy Bunting. Is this an area where you think that's going to be the biggest area that needs to come along as the defensive backs? And maybe as a guy like Richard Sherman, there's been some chatter about maybe Richard Sherman comes in the mix at some point in the Bucs secondary.
Yeah, look, we all knew that from the very start that this was an area that still had to be watched. Look, they came along really well second half last season. Guys like Jamel Dean, Sean Murphy Bunting made a lot of nice plays. Carlton Davis III, he's made a lot of nice plays. But consistently over the course of 17 games, can these guys hold up against really elite level passing attacks? Yesterday was an indication they can't. Even against Matt Ryan, they struggled. Right. I think this unit is going to struggle. It's very hard to play cornerback safety in this league. Look, when the pass rush isn't working, as it didn't yesterday, not sure it really has all that much this year. That secondary is going to get exposed. So a couple things have to happen here. Pass rush has got to be better. And look, they're blitzing. I don't know what the next gen stat is, but there is a next gen stat out there that has the Bucs in the top 5 in the league in terms of blitz attempts. So they're trying to get there. Might be an indication that they know that they're not getting there with the front 4, so they're blitzing. It's worked on a couple of occasions, but until that really starts to be effective, secondary is going to be in trouble. So, a guy like Richard Sherman brings an awful lot to a team like this. He's hungry, wants to play, certainly capable, and just the knowledge that he would bring these guys. I think it would be a smart move to bring in, if it's not Richard Sherman, someone like him. If there's a veteran out there who's willing to do this, they've already moved the money around, restructuring Ali Marpet's contract. If you can find somebody that's willing to take $2.5–3 million, go get them, because I think you're going to need them.
No, I think you make a great point, because Sherman's not going to go to a losing team at this stage of his career. He's going to come to a team that's in the mix for a championship. I think he'd be a good mix. He's got the pedigree. He's got the swagger. I think there's something, like you said, I think he would help a young guy Jamel Dean, even a Carlton Davis, who's our best corner. I think he would be able to give him some just technical tips and just the lay of the land of the NFC that I think we could use.
Even if it's just to throw him out there for a dozen plays a game, it's someone the defense has to think about. You know, right now, yeah, they got to think about Jamel Dean and Carlton Davis, but not to the degree that you think about Richard Sherman.
Right.
As you're preparing for a game, if Richard Sherman comes in this week and Bill Belichick's preparing for this Sunday's game, you're saying to yourself, okay, what's this guy got left? What's the tape we're looking at? You know, best we can go on his last year. What did he look like? What did he look like the year before?
Right.
You got to expect that. You can hope you're not going to get it, but if you do, you could be in trouble if you test them. So you don't want to test them. So just to put that thought process into another coordinator's head, not a bad move at all. So I'm all in favor of the idea.
How worried are you about the running game? Just lackluster production, and you know, it seems like Fournette's kind of stepped ahead of Ronald Jones now because Jones' inability to pass protection, things like that. What are your thoughts on the running game?
Yeah, I think it's time to stop penalizing guys for not protecting the passer well, because let's face it, they've all had their turn here, missing an assignment. So It's time to get Ronald Jones out of the doghouse. Let him run the ball. He's your best running back. Use him regularly, and let's get back to getting 150 yards out of the running game. You've got to start doing that. You can't force this line to kind of stand up constantly and protect Tom Brady. It's not going to work consistently. You've got to give him a running game. He's always had a running game. Giovanni Bernard looks fine coming out of the backfield when he catches the ball. He's had a couple of drops. But look, your best running back is Ronald Jones. Use him.
All right, before we get to the Bucs Patriots preview, let's do a little jump around the league, a few topics around the league. Obviously, we're through 3 weeks. Let's start with the rookie quarterbacks. Wilson, Lawrence, Justin Fields, Mac Jones. They've all had some growing pains. Justin Fields the Bears offense was historically bad yesterday. I think net 47 yards of offense. I mean, that's hard to do. I don't care who's playing quarterback. Just your thoughts, general thoughts about the rookie quarterback so far.
Yeah, I'll tell you what. It's so, it's like a kid at Christmas. He wants to unwrap that toy and start playing with it right away. I get it, but boy, oh boy, in the NFL, this is not a toy from Mattel. These are real people. They've got a lot of learning to do. The Justin Fields thing, I know the people in Chicago want to see him play. Andy Dalton's not the long-term answer, but do you want to be competitive this year? Let the guy sit on the sidelines for a few weeks here. Justin Fields isn't ready. The Bears aren't ready.
Right.
We may be finding out that the Bears aren't ready. And there's really nothing worse for a young quarterback to go to a team that isn't ready. The Jets aren't ready. I like what they're doing in San Francisco. Let the kids sit on the bench. I know the fans there are clamoring for a change already. Not sure why. That game wasn't lost by the quarterback. Let's not forget Jimmy Garoppolo did his job last night, brought the team back. This is not the time to go to the kid. I've never been a fan of going to these kids early. Most teams are struggling as a result of it. You see them in their second year, they look a little bit better. They look a whole lot better in their third and fourth. I think every one of these teams is making a mistake going to these guys so soon. You're not going to win consistently, maybe 5-6 games at best. I even doubt you see a team finish 500 with a rookie quarterback. So not in favor of it. And you know what? Bears got what they should have expected. Fields looks great on tape in college, but this is the NFL.
Northwestern isn't walking through that door.
Yeah. I'll never forget back in the day, one of the first games I covered as a Buccaneers beat writer for the Tampa Tribune back in the day was the Buccaneers going up against Donovan McNabb as a rookie.
Right.
And they made Donovan McNabb look awful. And we know Donovan McNabb became one of the best quarterbacks in the league over the course of time that he was in the league. And on that day, making his first start, the Buccaneers made him look like he didn't belong in the league. And you know what? That's what good, sound veteran defenses do. They make rookies look like they don't belong. And that's what's happening with a lot of these guys. They'll have moments. Absolutely, They'll have moments. They'll look good for a while, and then they're going to look terrible. But more often than not, they're going to look terrible, and your team's going to be terrible as a result. If you think it's so valuable to get them the snaps, fine. But then don't expect to be an 8-9 team now, I guess is what it would be, or a 9-8 team. You're not going to win consistently with that rookie at quarterback. It's highly unlikely. Speaking of great defensive coaches, the Bucs just honored Monte Kiffin a week or so back
Tell me your thoughts. I know you work probably very closely with Monte, interviewed him, talked to him on and off the record many, many a times. Just give the audience a little perspective on Monte Kiffin.
Oh man, it reminds me of he's the mad professor type, hair going everywhere, but very inspirational, always had an idea. And you know what, the best thing about Monte Kiffin was he knew exactly what he needed in the players that he put on his defense. Now, he should get the credit along with Tony Dungy for bringing the cover 2 defense to Tampa Bay. It's what made Tampa Bay so special. They perfected that defense. He and Tony Dungy here in Tampa brought it with him from Minnesota. Very smart guys, knew exactly what they needed at every position. And that was really the strength there, is they knew exactly what kind of player they needed to play middle linebacker, outside linebacker, to play the 3 technique, to play on the end, to play the strong safety and the free safety, to play a corner, to play in the nickel. They knew exactly what they needed, and Rich McKay went out and got them for him on a regular basis. Didn't work so well with Bruce Allen, because Bruce Allen doesn't listen to anybody, and didn't work there. So, but at the end of the day, Monte Kiffin, he deserves to be in the Hall of Fame, not just the Buccaneers Ring of Honor.
Wow.
He deserves to be in the Hall of Fame. He is one of those coordinators who was smart enough. I've said this many times. I probably said it on your podcast as well, Jason. There are coordinators, and then there are head coaches. And the most successful coordinators are not the guys who end up going and becoming head coaches. They're the guys who realize, I'm a coordinator.
Right.
That's what I do. I'll stick with that. And Monte Kiffin knew what he did best, stuck with it. And I believe he deserves to be in the Hall of Fame as one of the great defensive coordinators in the game's history. You're often asked, what is a Hall of Fame player or coach in this case? To me, a Hall of Famer is someone, can you write the history of the game without that person? You can't do that without Monte Kiffin.
Right.
Because the history of the game includes a good long stretch, a decade plus, almost 2 decades, where the cover 2 defense was the predominant defense played by teams in the NFL, at least 4-3 teams. And that cover 2 defense won a Super Bowl in Tampa and won a couple of Super Bowls in other places as well. Monte Kiffin was one of the key architects of that defense. He was one of the guys who perfected it. And for that reason, Ring of Honor is not enough for him. Belongs in the Hall of Fame. That's
a great point. And people always think cover 2, that it's a simplistic, very, very vanilla defense. It's not. I'm sure he was the master of coming up with little intricacies within the zone defenses. He made a guy like Rondé Barber. If Rondé Barber's on another team, he might have been out of the league in 4 or 5 years, because he wasn't a man-to-man, really a great cover guy, but just what a smart cornerback, a perfect zone guy. Talk to me about all the little intricacies of that cover 2.
Yeah, you're right. I mean, look, cover 2, for people who don't know it, what it means is the 2 safeties split the field in half, right down the middle. You're the guy on the left's responsible for the left, guy on the right's responsible for the right. A lot of area, right? Well, the middle linebacker's job is to drop back and cover in the middle. And the whole idea is to force a team to go 80 plus yards without making a mistake. Right. That's the key. A lot of people don't understand. The cover 2 is not a defense that's designed to shut you down in 3 plays. It's designed to shut you down and keep you from scoring points, or at the very least, give up a field goal. Right. You just don't want to give up touchdowns. It's in essence, a kind of a prevent defense that prevents against giving up big plays.
Right.
And what makes it difficult to play is you have to be very disciplined in it, because you have to stay in your area. Yes, it's a zone defense. You have to stay in your zone. If you're a safety and you see something leaking over towards the middle, you have to trust that middle linebacker is going to be there and cover his spot. As a corner, you've got to trust that when I give this guy up, when I stop covering, when he runs by me, I can't go chasing him, because that's going to open up something else underneath that the quarterback may throw. I've got to trust that my safety is going to be behind me and playing. It requires tremendous pressure from the front 4, not a lot of blitzing in the 4-3 cover 2 defense, but every once in a while you do. And you've got to have very mobile outside linebackers and obviously middle linebackers. Takes a certain kind of player to play it. Very disciplined, very smart.
Yep.
You got to know your keys. Can't tell you how many times I heard that from John Lynch. Got to know your keys. Absolutely. And it's almost difficult to, it's not difficult to learn, but it's difficult to perfect, because it can be monotonous.
Right.
One of the things the players, Rondé Barber and John Lynch, and the guys particularly in the secondary, used to complain about was they would do this on a regular basis, spend, a good 30, 40 minutes every practice, just basically going through those keys, knowing where you are, where you're supposed to be on every play. And it becomes monotonous to do it over and over again. It's like, if you ask somebody, okay, I need you to pick up a pencil, hold it the right way, and now make your U. Now make your W. Now make a Z. Imagine doing that every day for 30, 40 minutes.
Right.
You're like, why am I doing this? But it became such a part of your body language that you automatically, instinctively, without any hesitation, knew exactly where to go come Sunday, because you did go through that every single day. And as monotonous as it was, it really paid off on Sundays. And that's when you say, when guys talk about putting in their work in the cover 2 defense, that's where you're putting in your work. Is you just got to make sure that, it's muscle memory. You've got to know exactly where am I going to go. When this quarterback drops back here and looks left, what am I doing?
Formation. Yep. When it's formationally and trips to the left, we do this. Double twins when the running back flares. I mean, all the little intricacies of any defense. And to think that Monte Kiffin had 4 Hall of Fame, probably going to have 4 Hall of Famers. Barber's probably going to get in here soon. Sapp, Brooks, and Lynch. Yeah, Barber, you're going to have 4 Hall of Famers from one defense.
Yeah, exactly. And Shelton Quarles was no he was no slob either. And let's not forget Simeon Rice. Yeah. Look, one of the great, and this is not a knock on anybody, so I won't even mention anybody. One of the great things about the cover 2 is you probably have to be fast and smart, better than talented, because yes, you need talent to play in it. Right. But it's one of those defenses that at certain positions, strong side linebacker, safety, certain corner positions, you can be just an adequate player, and you can get the job done as long as you're disciplined enough, smart enough to follow your keys and know where to be when the ball is snapped and as the play is unfolding in front of you. As long as you're disciplined enough, you can play that defense. You don't have to be real speedy. Rondé Barber will probably admit that in terms of athleticism, on a scale of 1 to 10, he's probably an 8. All right. Maybe not a 9 or a 10, but you could be a 6 or a 7 in this defense and be exceptional. Rondé Barber is exceptional because he was smart and took advantage of the skill set that he did have. That's what the cover 2 did. It took advantage of certain players' skill sets, and it wasn't really adapting to the skill set. It was the player just basically knowing where to be.
Absolutely. So great tribute there for Monte. All right, let's get to some teams around the league. Your friend, our former coach, John Gruden, down in Oakland, at Las Vegas now, off to a 3-0 start, 2 overtime wins, another overtime win over the weekend versus the Dolphins. Is this sustainable for the Raiders? I think it looks like they've improved drastically on defense. Derek Carr playing very well at the quarterback position. You think it's sustainable?
Yeah, I do. And the reason I believe that is what you just mentioned. They're better on defense. And look, I believe a lot in Mike Mayock. If he's allowed to do what he's supposed to do in terms of building that team, he's going to bring in players who can play. And you're seeing it out of Crosby now. You're seeing it out of the linebackers. You're starting to see it a little bit with the defense. They're still giving up some points, but you know what? Carr is as good as there is, and they've got some really intriguing young receivers.
Yes.
I'll just say pass catchers, because that young tight end is exceptional.
Yep.
Not sure the running game is going to be good enough, but in that division and in that conference, I think they can make some noise. The way things are going right now, Kansas City, look, it's kind of up for grabs, and they've got a lot of momentum. One of the things that's very important in the NFL early on, you don't want to start off 1-1, 1-2. If you're 3-0, you've got momentum.
Yep.
And look, they've taken advantage of some mistakes on other teams. Good for them. Won a game or two maybe they shouldn't have won. Been fortunate, but you know what? When the ball bounces your way, take advantage. A lot of teams out there can't take advantage. Right now, they're taking advantage. So right now, you got to give them all the respect that a 3-0 record should warrant them, and say, hey, they're a team to be feared right now.
I agree, and they're winning all the close games. They've won. They're winning all the close games, and every year, one or two of these kind of teams go on a run where they win all the close games. They get the turnover. They win the margin of turnover battle, and it's just, I'm with you. I think they can make the playoffs. I definitely do, and it'd be a good story for the league, for the Raiders to be back in the mix for sure.
Especially in Las Vegas.
Absolutely. Absolutely. All right, let's talk about the huge winning in San Francisco last night for Green Bay. What a drive at the end by Rodgers. Again, we made the comment, Garoppolo did great. The only thing you can maybe quibble about, they scored too early there at the end. He didn't use enough of the clock. They had timeouts, and maybe they could have burned a little bit more of that time. Obviously you always want to score a touchdown when you can score it, but what a drive by Rodgers at the end last night.
Yeah, it really was. 37 seconds left in the game, no timeouts. You got to hope that your defense can somehow hold there, and they couldn't. That's the counter argument to you scored too fast. When you say, well, you scored too fast, you're kind of suggesting that we can score at will,
right,
that we can just control that. Well, it doesn't work that way. Not in the NFL for sure, and usually not in any level of football. Probably not even peewee, but at the end of the day, you score when you can, and then you turn it over to your defense. Not a bad defense, but Aaron Rodgers is going to have moments like this, and let's face it, he's motivated, and he's motivated in a lot of ways. And he said it a couple of years ago, infamously, in essence, kind of reiterated it this year after the 0-1 start. Relax, okay, relax. Right. And when Aaron Rodgers says relax, people probably should take it to heart and say, yeah, you know what? Maybe we should relax, because now take a look at them. They look pretty darn good. Look, is Green Bay good enough? They're good enough to win the division, because the Lions are the Lions.
Yes.
Minnesota looks pretty good right now, but I don't really believe in Kirk Cousins at quarterback. I'm not sure the defense is going to be strong enough to hold up. The Bears are the Bears. They're a mess. And the whole quarterback situation is, we're going to be talking about Nagy being fired here pretty soon, if we aren't already. So the Packers are the elite in the division. They should win it. At the very least, they should get to the playoffs as a wild card. They just know that. I'm not sure there's a better quarterback who vocalizes it. I think Tom Brady and plenty of other quarterbacks know this, but nobody really vocalizes it better than Aaron Rodgers, like him or not. What it means to be 0-1, 1-2, 2-4, 3-5. It's a long season.
Yes.
And again, in a division like that, where, you've played one division game here. Have they played one? So, you've still got all these division games left. When you're beating San Francisco on the road, that's big
huge
stuff.
Win. Huge win.
So big wins when they need them. And you know what? That's what championship caliber teams do. Yep. And when you've got a championship caliber quarterback who's got a chip on his shoulder about something, ready to prove to the rest of the world that, hey, I deserve a little bit more in terms of whether it's money, power, control over the roster, take your pick. He's got a lot. There's a fire under that man. And right now you do not want to face the Packers with a fire under Aaron Rodgers.
And that throw he made to Devontae Adams on the first play of that drive over the middle linebacker's fingertips, about 35 yards down the field, was unbelievable.
And that kind of win, that kind of victory fuels a team.
Yes.
It's like, you know what? That 1-0-1 start, it's so far in the past now. Like nobody's even thinking about that. This team is now thinking it can win the next 8 straight. That's what they're thinking after that.
What do you think when you see Ben Roethlisberger kind of declining the way he is in Pittsburgh?
I hate to say it, but I'm not surprised. I thought one of the things I've really thought is that here's a team that needs to be ready and really think about the next, the next guy. And they thought they could squeeze another, year out of Roethlisberger. Maybe they still can. Again, not a big fan of the division. Don't know if it's that tough. And I'm not taking anything away from Cincinnati or Cleveland. Right. Cleveland in particular. I still think that Cleveland could falter and probably will at some point, that will allow Pittsburgh to get back in it. Pittsburgh's got to do some things other than lean on Ben Roethlisberger here. Right. My concern is I'm not sure they have the talent to do it. I think defensively they're okay, but I'm not sure the running game is good enough.
Right.
And I think there's just some issues there. And right now you're leaning too much on a guy whose legs just probably don't have it to lean into. I'd be a little bit concerned if I'm in Pittsburgh. It may be an ugly finish there. I'm not ready to say that just yet, but it could be an ugly finish for Roethlisberger, and I'd hate to see that.
And the problem is they don't have anywhere to go. You can't go to Mason Rudolph or Dwayne Haskins. Not like they have a semi-competent backup where if you had to sit Roethlisberger down for a couple of weeks just to let him rest, you really can't do that because you don't really have an adequate backup.
Yeah, we started off this segment here talking about rookie quarterbacks and how I'm not a big fan of using them. But, if a year ago you'd have looked ahead a little bit, even this past draft, you look ahead a little bit,
Right.
Bring in somebody. At least you got somebody that, as you said, can, put him in there, late in games where you're losing, let him get some reps, see what he looks like. I wouldn't be making the change just yet, but
Right.
you're right. Right now, it's like the well's dry. So what do you turn to? You'd have nothing to turn to, and that's really that's tough.
No, you're right. No, you're right. Absolutely. All right, let's go to Kansas City. 1-2. The bad part about that is now they're 2 games behind Denver and in Las Vegas, and not that that's a huge deal, but Mahomes has been a little bit more too carefree with the ball late in games. Couple picks. He had a bad pick yesterday. The Baltimore pick last week. Any concern with Kansas City? Obviously, Andy Reid's had some health issues now that he's dealing with. And the defense is just not. I mean, they're not going to be a shutdown defense. They're going to be giving up 24 to 30 every week. Your thoughts on Kansas City?
Yeah, this may sound like kind of a weak argument. Not a big karma guy necessarily, but let's just face it: the karma there for the last, going back to late last season, hasn't been good.
Right.
Injuries. Some bad things happening inside the coaching staff. As you
Right.
said, Andy Reid now with some health issues. Hopefully he's going to be all right. They're just not focused, it seems. They're just not giving you their best yet. That's probably a good thing. The fact that they're 1-2, again, we've talked about it, not to be concerned, because Patrick Mahomes, among young quarterbacks, has probably got that mentality as well as anybody, that Aaron Rodgers mentality of, hey, folks, relax. Okay. It's 1-2. It's not 1-12. Let's not forget that. And I don't think it'll get to 1-12. I think they're going to be okay, but they're going to have to do it possibly from within. And what I mean within the locker room, because, look, Andy Reid's a hell of a coach, got some darn good, disciples on that staff with him, but Andy Reid's the guy. And if he's not around to kind of, put all this together, it could be tough. So, but I would say a team like Kansas City can bounce back very well. It's not like they're getting blown out here.
Right.
They're getting beat by, some pretty interesting, in some interesting ways here. So I think they're going to be okay. I don't think they're going to run away with the division.
No.
I still think they're playoff caliber, and I think they'll get there. But they've got to right the ship. They've got some work to do.
Interesting signing on Monday. Josh Gordon reinstated is going to sign with Kansas City. That maybe he can be the second receiver there to Tyreek Hill and Kelsey. But interesting signing there with Josh Gordon with all his off the field problems going to Kansas City.
Yeah, in my opinion, this is just more bad juju, if you ask me.
Right.
That's a guy I'm staying away from. Some players just aren't going to be on my roster, and that's one of them. Look, the talent is there, I guess. Who knows? We haven't seen him in a while, but to me, it's just asking a lot, and it becomes a distraction at a time when you don't really need that distraction. I guess there'll be a lot of press about him coming in, and people won't necessarily be thinking about the fact that they're 1-2, especially with Andy Reid in the hospital for a night. But this team doesn't need that. You've won without that. You can win without that now. That's not the reason you're losing.
Right.
Okay. It's minor details that are being missed. It's attention to detail, that kind of thing. The old adage,
security, careless turnovers.
Exactly. And Gordon will bring you another weapon, which is great. But you know what? The guys on the team right now just have to play better football. It's that simple. Some teams have gotten away with playing just adequate football. The Bucs did for 2 weeks.
Right.
A little bit better than adequate. I shouldn't say adequate, but the Chiefs haven't. So play better. That's the answer. Not bringing in another body at a position where you're strong anyway. You're fine. Play better.
Right. No doubt. No doubt. All right. Before we get to the Bucs Patriots on the field and all the hysteria and all the hype, talk to me about being in a room with a coach, i.e. Bill Belichick, that doesn't give you anything. You've been in a zillion locker rooms, press conferences, and all that stuff. How frustrating is it for you when you ask the most basic question of a coach, whether it's Belichick or anybody else? And I know the Bucs have had their share of coaches over the years that have been tight-lipped and all that. How frustrating is it for you covering the team when you can't get a basic answer out of a coach?
That's very frustrating because, at the end of the day, you're just looking for a coach to kind of confirm something that you believe or know, and you're just trying to get that confirmed. And the biggest thing to me is these coaches do not understand and maybe don't care that they're speaking when they're speaking to us, they're speaking to the fans.
Sure.
And to me, it's disrespectful to the people that are paying your salary and making this thing work for you when you can't give us some basic information. I'm not asking you to give up the game plan. I'm not
Sure.
asking you to tell me, where you're going to line up, this player and that player on Sunday afternoon. I don't, you have to tell me that stuff, but these basic, answers, playing with the media, it's like, come on, we've all got a job to do here. And don't ever forget, when you're talking to a reporter, you're talking to the fans. And I really, we were fortunate in Tampa, as tough as some guys were, Greg Schiano in particular, a couple others. Nobody was as bad as Belichick. Belichick just, in fact, it was kind of funny. He did an interview with somebody this past week. Maybe it was Jimmy Johnson, I think. And it was funny. Jimmy Johnson asked him a question, and you know what? It was the same BS answer, a cliche. We just got to get better, and this, that, and the other. And it was just like, that's his answer. You kind of get to a point where I wouldn't even ask, well, why bother? You're not going to get an answer.
Right.
So why even bother asking him questions? It's really a waste of my time to go in there and sit with him for 5 or 10 minutes and have people try to drag something out of him when he's not going to give you anything anyway. So, I think there's probably a way to deal with guys like that. And the way to deal with them is basically ignore them and say, you know what, we got nothing. And
the sad part is you hear off the field that behind the scenes, he's a pretty gregarious guy with the players, and he's pretty funny, and he's got some personality away from the field in certain situations, but he's just such a jerk. And it's on purpose. It's not like it's a totally on purpose deal why he does that. I just don't get it.
Yeah. And my answer to that is that he's this different guy off the field. Is, yeah, so what? Guess what? Nobody's going to see him off the field.
Right.
First of all, he's going to spend 18 hours at the building. All right. Down in his bunker, watching tape or doing whatever he does. Cause these guys are workaholics beyond belief. And, they always think that, if I just work 5 more minutes, and make it a 19-hour day, well, at least they can't say I didn't work hard enough. So,
right.
They're also small-minded in that regard that they can't figure that part out. Tony Dungy had it right. Steve Spurrier, believe it or not, had it.
Yeah.
Those coaches can figure, you can get this job, it's football. Okay. It's football. You can get it done in 8 hours a day. If you can't, you're probably not that smart. Right. You might be football smart, but maybe not really smart anyway. So, the fact that he's interesting off the field, yeah, that's great. But you know what? 99.9%, in fact, of the 55 or 60,000, let's say 62,000 people showed up in Foxboro for the next game. 61,999 are probably never going to encounter Bill Belichick away from the football field. And so what he's like off the field doesn't matter. Right. He's a football coach. And those people care about, how is this guy that I bleed Patriot blue, or Patriot red, whatever it might be. They want to know, do I need to go to this game this weekend? Well, let me know. Is this tight end going to play? Is the quarterback okay? Are we okay as a team? What's happening here? And I just think that, look, it's not hard. It's communicate. It's just talking football.
Right.
If you can't talk football as a football coach, maybe you shouldn't be a head coach. And again, I get it. Bill Belichick's got a bunch of rings. All right. Yeah. I think it's thanks to Tom Brady, but he's got a bunch of rings because all of a sudden, Bill Belichick don't look so smart.
You're right. So when you dealt with coaches, i.e. Schiano's staff, was it much easier to get information out of the assistants? Were those guys much more willing, or the trainers or the equipment guys, to give you information that you needed, and the personnel guys that you needed?
Well, as a reporter, you have to be able to develop sources, and it could be an assistant coach, it could be someone else in the front office, could be players, it could be the head coach, so also, but maybe just not on the record. Maybe it's or maybe it's just not for attribution or something like that.
Right.
Did a lot of that with guys. General manager is always important. But yeah, when you have a coach like that, you've got to work a little bit harder. You got to make sure that you're getting the information from somewhere, somehow, some way, and you got to, the hard part is figuring out, okay, which one of these guys is going to talk? Because usually when you have a coach like that, there's kind of a mandate that goes around the building saying, I'm the spokesperson here. No one else talks. But you do have guys who have personalities, who are comfortable with the media, not afraid to talk. It's one of the great things about Tony Dungy is he encouraged not just his players, but all of his coaches to talk to the media because he wanted them to become head coaches.
Right.
So, when we had a chance to talk to Mike Tomlin as the coach of the secondary, we were getting great information. Mike Tomlin was basically kind of preparing for the time when he'd be a head coach.
Right.
Same with Rod Marinelli. Same with Monte Kiffin, although he never became the head coach.
Yep.
Guys like that, Joe Barry, people who had that opportunity.
Lovie Smith.
Yeah, exactly. Lovie Smith, perfect example.
Herm Edwards.
They were all over the place. These guys were not afraid to talk. They were free to talk,
right?
Because Tony Dungy wanted them to talk because he was smart enough to know that these guys aren't going to say something that's going to give away our game plan.
Right.
You have to be able to trust these people. There's something inside a person like Bill Belichick who can't trust his coaches to say the right thing when they talk to the media. It's a controlling gene of some kind, a lack of trust. Who knows what it is, but it's a fault. And eventually that stuff kind of catches up to you at some point in your life. When he's out of football, he'll regret it. He'll probably regret it. He probably will. He'll probably look back at some point very late in his life and say, probably could have handled that a little bit different because this is my legacy.
Right.
Yeah. All those rings, that's going to be 90% of it. But then there's going to be, but you know what? He was a jerk.
And especially when a guy like him has the tarnish, has some of the warts that he has with Spygate and the other things. You would think he would have maybe gotten more open the last 10 years or so with the media, so he would get a little more forgiveness, but he hasn't done it.
And he's being exposed now as well. I mean, look, I'm not kidding when I say you start to wonder, maybe it was all Tom Brady, because all of a sudden you take that element out and who are the Patriots? Well, they're certainly not going to run away with that division. That's for sure.
He wasn't great in Cleveland either before he had Brady.
The greatest coach is going to make it work no matter who's the quarterback. And granted, he has to be, somewhat talented, but it's not like they're lacking talent at the position now. They're really not getting the job done either. So, it just tells, makes you wonder.
All right, let's get to the game. Talk to me. Tell me about your interactions with Brady when he was in New England. I know he didn't play the Bucs very often, but what were your interactions with Brady when he was on the other side of the ledger?
Yeah, the Bucs went up there a couple times to practice against them when Greg Schiano was the coach, and so we got to deal with Brady a little bit. Mostly, at Super Bowls and things like that is where I dealt with him. And look, very open guy, and I'm glad that he finally got away from being under the thumb of Bill Belichick, so we could see a little bit more of his personality. It turns out he's got one, and kind of a funny guy, and it's good that we're seeing that. I think it's one of the I think it's rejuvenated him a little bit. I think it's one of the reasons he probably feels a little bit younger, and but again, he knows when to be a business guy. He knows when it's all about football, and he's so smart about the game that you can learn a lot from just talking to him, talk about the basics. But with him, it was almost always in a very large group setting. Certainly never had an opportunity to just do one-on-ones with him and that kind of thing. So big group settings, but obviously a smart guy. But we're seeing a different Tom Brady now than what we ever saw in New England.
So the emotion of heading to Foxboro Sunday night out, you would hope Robert Kraft will do some kind of celebration video of some sort honoring Brady. Who knows with Belichick being there if they'll do that or not. Obviously, the crowd will be electric. Probably will be the highest rated regular season game probably ever, I would think. Certainly on NBC, you would think. But just what's your thoughts of Brady going into that game? Do you think Arians is going to really let Brady let it loose, or do you think it's going to be more, let's just win the game, and if we get a chance to stick it in them a little bit, do you think they're going to try to do that come Sunday night?
Yeah, well, right now, both teams just need a win. So outside of what's going to happen on the field or in the stands or with tributes and that kind of thing, both teams need a win here, and to kind of come off after coming off a bad week. So that's going to be foremost in everybody's mind. It would be nice if there was a tribute. I don't know when it would be. probably before the game. But what I think I'd like to see is maybe a 5 or 10 minute tribute prior to the game,
right?
When the players are on the field. I don't know if Brady and Gronkowski would do this, but run a video, 5-8 minutes,
right?
Bring the players out and let the fans give them a 15-minute standing ovation, and then play football. Get it out, because you are talking about two of the greatest players in the history of the game, the greatest quarterback of all time, and arguably the greatest tight end of all time. And they did, 99% of their great work in New England. This is their first time back. Let the fans have their moment. Let Gronkowski and Brady have their moment. Everybody suck it up and just do it. We see it in other sports where prior to the game, someone gets a tribute. It's a video, and a silver stick is given to them in hockey, or a bat or something
right.
in baseball. Do it in football. I think Brady and Gronkowski are both. I don't know if they do it. I would hope they would for these fans, but let the fans have their 12-minute standing ovation, and which would be, to me, that would be a tremendous tribute. A 12-minute standing ovation for number 12, and just let them know how much you love him. And because let's face it, he's the reason you got those rings, folks.
There's no doubt about it. No doubt about it. It'll be, like I said, it will be unbelievable theater come Sunday night in Foxboro. All right.
Yeah.
I know you're a baseball guy. I'll get you out of here on this. We're listening to Roy Cummings, pewterpirates.com, longtime reporter for the Tampa Bay, covered the Buccaneers for many, many years here in the Tampa Bay area. I know you're a big baseball fan. Let's talk about the Rays heading to the playoffs next week. Just your thoughts. Can they go the distance? I thought last year when Kevin Cash made the fateful decision to pull out Snell, I didn't think they'd have a chance to be as good as they were this year. Give them full credit. They've done an unbelievable job running away with the AL East. Do you think they can go the distance here in the playoffs?
Boy, how can you say no? I mean, the AL East is still the AL East. The Red Sox still strong. Get Chris Sale back. Still can't, get to the top of the mountain where the Rays are. Toronto Blue Jays spending money, like, making sure that, you bring in Marcus Semien, you bring in the guy from
Robbie Ray, the pitcher, Ryu.
Yeah, bring in the pitching staff. I mean, you've done so much to build that team up. Yep. You still can't get to the mountaintop. The Yankees always making moves. Anthony Rizzo still can't get there. If the Rays can fight off the AL East, which they did, and the best of the AL East, yep, which they did, and run away with that division the way they did, absolutely, they can get there. They were close last year. Look, I still have issues. I don't think the pitching staff is very strong.
Right.
It still boggles my mind how they win consistently with the pitchers they have, but they do. They figure out a way, and if they get up against whoever it might be,
they're going to probably play Boston or New York. They're going to have Boston and New York in the division.
Even a team. Right, even a team in the AL, whether it's the Yankees or the Red Sox or Seattle for that matter.
Right.
Let's wait and see. But it's not going to be an easy run. They're going to have to do it. They're not going to run away with it, I don't think. But boy, can they do it? Why not? I mean, I'm with you. When you lose, Morton, and you lose Snell, how do you think you're gonna get back there?
Win 100 games.
Win 100 games with Michael Wacha as one of your 5 starters. How does that happen? Right. How does that happen? I don't know. But yeah, you can win. You can win 21 more.
I just hope the fan base comes out in these playoff games. I know obviously attendance has been a huge issue in the market for a long time. Hopefully the fans will come out for these playoff games no matter when they are during the day, because it would just be sad if that building's not full in the playoffs.
Yeah, fans usually come out in the playoffs, so I'm sure they'll be there because, again, it's a chance to witness something special.
And it'd be a great cap off to the whole Tampa Bay mantra in the last couple of years here in the town. All right, Roy, great work, awesome work. Tell the audience where they can find you and all that good stuff on social media.
Just find me on at R Cummings FHCN. Follow me on Twitter. That's where I'm at. I don't do much on Facebook, but I tweet out during the games and throughout the course of the week. That's where you find the stuff.
And pewterpirates.com for some more content.
Yeah, a little bit of content there as well.
Awesome. Well, fantastic, Roy. Great job. Thanks for the insight. And we'll definitely check back with you as we move through the football season.
Glad to do it, Jason.
See you next time, Roy. Thank you. We'll be right back. Awesome, Roy. Thank you, sir.
All righty. Were we recording?
Yes, we're done now. Yes.
All right.
All
Sounds good.
That was
Well,
good.
glad we were able to do it.
Awesome. And I'll definitely will get you back in 4 or 5 weeks. And
sounds good.
Appreciate that. I don't know if you know this, but I'm doing a podcast with Paul Stewart now. It's part of his Buck Power. We're doing a weekly historical review of the Bucks' opponent every week. Me and another guy are doing a podcast for Paul. So
you, me, and TJ got to work on maybe trying to somehow figure out how we can get him in as a fan into the Hall of Fame for the Bucks.
That would be, no, you're right. That
I think he deserves it.
That's right. I've never met Paul. I've talked to him. Yeah, he's great.
Yeah, for sure.
That buckpower.com is unbelievable. All the stuff he's got on there.
Tremendous site.
Well, Roy, appreciate it. And we'll be in touch, sir. Thank you.
All right. You bet. Take care.
Thanks.
You bet.